Welcome back to MT American. A rare and chaotic scene unfolded. Mountains rumbled with the roar of water. Peaceful valleys suddenly turned into raging torrents tearing across the land. Rivers and streams burst their banks, carrying mud and rocks in endless brown waves that swallowed everything. People opened their doors to water, looked outside, and saw nothing but mud. This was no longer just rain. It was a relentless, all-consuming force striking every corner of life. In the lowlands, the flood rushed into narrow alleys, crawled across courtyards, climbed onto tiled floors, and left behind a suffocating layer of mud. Schools and clinics stood like empty shells covered in thick silt. Shops, homes, almost everything were gutted. What remained were cold, damp frames and the smell of mold clinging to the air. Public buildings quickly became makeshift shelters where people clung to the few belongings they salvaged, sitting shoulder to shoulder, listening to the pounding water as a constant reminder of disaster. Infrastructure paid the price immediately. Vital roads were severed, national highways collapsed under landslides, and bridges twisted then snapped, leaving steel curled like scars in the floodwaters. Rural roads disappeared beneath muddy cascades. Vast areas became isolated, forcing rescue teams to use excavators to chip away rocks, carve through mud, and inch toward trapped residents. Cities did not escape either. Tunnels flooded, intersections drowned, and the ground floors of residential blocks turned into swamps. To open a single door, people had to shovel out dozens of buckets of thick mud. Life stopped, but time didn't. Each passing hour brought more collapse. In the countryside, the blow was even crueler. Fields were buried under sheets of gray water. Rice and corn that once promised a good harvest were wiped from the map. Fertile silt was carried away, leaving behind barren stones like the surface of the moon. Field boundaries vanished. Irrigation channels were buried, and makeshift wooden bridges were swept away. Scattered farm tools clung to the few high mounds of land still visible. Agricultural machinery lay dead in deep pools, rust creeping through every bolt. Cooperatives scrambled to use tractors to level soil and let the land breathe again. Agricultural agencies rushed to distribute seeds and fertilizer like emergency aid, hoping to salvage what little time remained for the final crop of the year. Everyone understood, if they hesitated, the harvest would collapse and hunger would follow the floods. But nature did not stop at flooding. Reservoirs strained under record inflows. Water levels rose like a frantic ticking clock, threatening scenarios few dared imagine. To prevent catastrophic dam failure, authorities were forced to release water, sending heavy waves downstream, an unwanted but necessary measure to protect the upstream regions. Monitoring teams worked through the night, reinforcing embankments, checking spillways, sealing hairline cracks before they grew into fractures. Above them, clouds gathered like layers of armor, signaling more storms waiting on the horizon. The power grid suffered a devastating hit. Substations drowned. Power poles toppled like matchsticks. Neighborhoods sank into darkness for days. Hospitals, shelters, and command centers relied on generators, burning fuel like sweat to power lights, ventilators, and radios. Communication networks broke apart. Fiber lines snapped, and isolated transmission towers flickered weakly like a tired breath. Relief convoys rattled through the silence, unable to navigate by signal or GPS, relying only on old maps and the instincts of seasoned drivers. Government response grew more urgent. Bulldozers, dump trucks, and pumps were deployed to carve lifelines through the chaos. Assessment teams spread out to record the damage: collapsed schools, broken bridges, paralyzed highways. The numbers were harsh, unavoidable. Emergency aid poured into local areas, though everyone knew the destruction exceeded all expectations. City service fleets became rescue units, sucking mud from tunnels, draining sewers, pulling massive debris from drainage systems. Heavy machinery streamed in from neighboring provinces. Volunteers formed human chains, passing sandbags and buckets of mud, rebuilding small bridges and placing planks for the elderly and children to cross temporary streams. Everywhere, people saved themselves before help could reach them. Neighbors shared instant noodles, flashlights, dry blankets. Improvised crews climbed onto rooftops, tying down metal sheets, patching holes before the next rain. Community health workers mixed disinfectant and checked wells one by one. After floods come diseases, silent, invisible enemies. From countryside to city, the fragile thread holding everything together was rapid cooperation. If one link loosened, the whole system would stall. Recovery would not be measured in weeks or months, but in years. In the number of harvests needed to restore the soil, the number of bridges rebuilt, the miles of fiber cable restrung from mountain to doorstep. Today's flood is a reminder that cannot be ignored. The climate is changing its way of attacking. Storms stronger, rains heavier, patterns more unpredictable. Survival cannot depend on luck. It belongs to those who prepare. Flood escape maps, dam release scenarios, fuel reserves, early warning networks. In disaster, the people here proved remarkable endurance, but resilience alone cannot be the only plan. To withstand the next wave of fury, Shaanxi must rebuild faster, smarter, and more fairly, so that when dark clouds gather again, the sound of water becomes only a challenge, not a sentence. Shaanxi has endured a brutal test of nature, one that drowned everything, yet revealed the endurance of its people. Water can wash away roads, fields, even memories, but not the spirit of community and the desire to survive. This disaster is a mirror, reflecting fragility and reminding us that preparation is the only armor for an uncertain future. What do you think? Are we outrunning the climate's growing rage or merely dodging it for now? If you believe the strength of community can save us, leave a number 1 in the comments and share how you would prepare for the next storm.